Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Stars Like Us. I am so thrilled to be here today with Arianna, but like maybe, but like actually, but like maybe.
But like, I'm here.
It's Virgo season. You're a Virgo. You're a Virgo sun, a Cancer moon, Capricorn rising, just like myself, which is just fabulous to connect with a fellow Capricorn rising. We could talk all about how much our lives suck. That could be a really great bond for both of us.
Is that what Capricorn risings do?
Yeah. Capricorn risings think that they have to work harder than everybody else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which is kind of like a relief, because then when you're like, oh, wait, maybe I don't actually work harder than everyone else. Maybe I just feel like I do. It actually takes a lot of the pressure off.
Okay. I dig that. I can see that.
So you grew up in the suburbs of Detroit and had a cliche Midwestern dream of moving to New York to work in fashion, worked for Ralph Lauren doing window displays, and started drawing cartoons about relationships on the side after getting brutally dumped in Central Park one day by a guy who told you that you interfered with his meditation schedule. This is the bio that I have. This is the bio I'm working with. So if I just ignored that and was like, great to have you. Anyway, no, we have got to talk about this piece of the bio. We have to talk about the Central Park meditation dump. Could you tell us that story before we go on to something else?
It's my epic intro into basically anytime anyone asks me, like how I kind of like got started with this thing. And I'm like, well, funny story. So I was seeing this guy, and like you said, I was very Midwestern girl. I like would rip out pages of magazines, paste them on my wall. I was very like wide-eyed, didn't even go to graduation, moved to New York, started working in fashion, ended up getting this job at Ralph Lauren, which was like super fun and creative, doing window displays. And then I started dating this guy who also worked at Ralph Lauren. And I was like, oh my God, we're like this cute little vintagey, weird, creative couple, and went to meet his parents, like somewhere, I forget where he took me, somewhere like on the East Coast. Like we went to some tiny town where they had like lobster rolls, whatever.
Wow.
And we come back. Yeah, it was cute. And then we came back and he asked me to go on a walk in Central Park. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. He's going to tell me he loves me. Like, I've never heard the words before. And he sat me down at a park bench and he put his hand on my thigh and was like, listen, you are an amazing girl, and to anyone who's ever heard those words before, I have like a funny saying. I'm like, it's like the speech, you're amazing, but like, it's like some sort of breakup like starts that way, or some sort of like pseudo breakup. If you're not even really dating the person, it's like, you're amazing, but here are the reasons why I don't want to be with you. It's like a compliment in between. And he was like, I'm just not myself at work right now. I really I'm busy. And, I just like my entire meditation schedule is thrown off. And I just remember thinking like, I wanted to cry, but at the same time, I wanted to laugh, like, because I was getting dumped for like the funniest reason. And I stood up, and it was one of those, like, I felt very like Sex and the City moments where I looked at him and I said, I took his hand off my thigh, and I was like, I never want to speak to you again. And I went out to Fifth Avenue because we didn't make it very far. We were like very on the edge of the park. And I screamed like, taxi, like literally screamed taxi. I think that's the one and only time I've done that in my life. And got in a cab, never spoke to him again until like 2 years later, I think, when I was drunk at a party and saw him and started yelling things at him. But yeah, and I always drew, like, when I was anxious, to release things and pressure or anxiety or whatever it was. And so I went home and just started drawing these funny cartoons about me getting dumped. And I had been doing cartoons, but this was kind of like the impetus that like set it into motion. And like, I always think like it's great for artists or artistic people, creative people, when something, or anyone really, like when something like that happens, like you turn your broken heart into art. You take something in your life, this pain, and you turn it into something else. And that, for me, it was just kind of this moment where I started, letting it out. and it was kind of funny, like my friends were like kind of cringing but laughing at the same time. um and then it was one of those weird things that like kind of started getting its own legs, and I was sending it to friends. I had a lot of friends who worked in fashion. Friend put one wrote a piece on it in Cosmo, and that was really like kind of what took off. I got some crazy amount of followers in a single day. I mean, this was back, years ago, like a few years ago, when that sort of thing still happened, like when you got like 10,000 followers in a day. And I was like, kind of like, I almost like threw my phone. I was like, maybe there's something I can do with this. Like, what's happening? And I was getting all these messages like, oh my God, this happened to me too. Oh my God, like girls were, and guys too, were DMing me asking for advice or sharing their similar situations. And I like, it was just this total communal feeling of like, I get what you're going through. This happened to me too.
Yeah, I love that, because that really is like with the work that you create and that you share, that is so much of the essence of it. It is so much of the inner monologue, of the experience. And it's kind of has that like Lizzie McGuire cartoon kind of vibe, where it's like the cartoon is the psyche that's like walking us through the neuroses and the anxieties and like the fears, but also like the confidence and like the bravery and the courage and all of those other important multidimensional things. I mean, in addition to them just being like so fun and so like fast paced and so cheeky, I think that what really makes them so resonant is just how intimate and honest they are too. Like there's a real layer of vulnerability in that work, which I think makes it really effective. I think that's definitely what immediately, well, that, and you posted something about co-star and I was like, no, not co-star. Like the hoe that I am. But I think it was that, but then the work really speaks for itself, I think. But going back to Sex and the City just for a brief moment, would you say that this ex was a burger ex? Because I'm getting burger vibes, but I also, they're all unavailable, most of the men on the show. So like, I don't want to project burger onto this person if he wasn't burger,
He could definitely be a type of a burger. Like he's definitely a burger, maybe like a mix of a burger. It was weird because he started off like an Aiden and was like very much like the like Brooklyn guy who loved, like he was so sweet to me, like wanted to treated me so well. And then it was weird. It was like this point where what was frustrating for me was that he used to joke like that I didn't give him a chance and I was running from him. And I like was like, and then finally I was like, I let him in. And it was that moment. And that's what I think, I've been burned because this happened to me so often. I'm like, I run away. I'm like, I don't want, I don't know. And then I let my guard down and I'm like, okay, like you've been so sweet and persistent and kind. Like I need to like give real men, like, a shot. And then I do. And then it's like, never mind. Like, then it's like, it all of a sudden 180s on me. And that's, I think, what was really frustrating about that particular situation was because I was like, wait, bro, you pursued me so hard. And I was like, no, like, and I think that's like, what's kind of frustrating about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's like such a real, the times that has happened to me, I feel like in some ways are like some of the most traumatic endings.
Yes.
Because it's like, I didn't even like you. Like I was like,
not to be a bitch, but like, bro, I didn't even like you.
Yeah. Like I was following your lead. Like you seemed really into it. You seemed really persistent. Like I was giving you a chance because you were going above and beyond to try to prove yourself.
Yeah.
But I think
because
oh, go ahead.
I was a bitch. Yeah, no, I'm saying like I feel like I was not nice to him at first, and I was like, I negged him. You know what I mean? And then I was like, okay, if you can put up with me, like I don't know, like, but it just, that's how that turned out.
But that's, I think that's the trick of them. I mean, what my therapist said after, because there was like, when I was living in LA, and maybe this is an LA thing, but this is also a New York thing. This is also
I
just
also
like,
lived in LA, so I
yeah,
can
I mean,
relate.
it was like very dark there for me at the time. My therapist said that is like really classic narcissistic behavior, which is that it's like when you are being sort of like love bombed, like pursued, and then you're not interested, and then you're like, okay, and then you sort of like lean into it, and then they're like, actually gotta go. That's because they don't actually want to get too close. It's because they want to they like the idea of somebody, but then once there was an opportunity for real intimacy to be developed, they can't exist with you anymore.
I mean, that's such like I did a cartoon about that. It's like, what are you holding on to in a relationship? Like you think about it and you're like, did I like them or did I like the idea of them? And, I think so many times, I've said this, like I portray sometimes being like the victim on my Instagram romantically, but I've done it too. I've liked the idea of someone. I've done it in reverse as well. So it's funny, like I'm starting to notice, I'm like, oh, I did that too. He did that to me, but I did that to this guy. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that but that's also like, I think that that's kind of an interesting thing. And I write about this in my book a little bit, like that there is this flow between the empaths and the narcissists, and like they both coexist, but you could swap your role, depending on the situation. Like I am no doubt a huge empath, but the same part of me that developed into an empath where I'm super fucking sensitive, and I can like, I feel people's emotions, is also based on the same part of me that can create walls and can ice people out and could not, bring and can make a choice to sort of like not bring people in. So I have to be careful. And I think anyone who's a sensitive person can't just like assume that they're sensitive and they're going to be nice no matter what. Like these roles can switch. People are fluid. And especially like, you're a Virgo sun, and Virgo is one of the mutable signs. And we've often forget, especially with Virgo, because Virgo is so like, organized and type A and perfectionist and all of those things that may or may not be true. But we forget that Virgo is one of those fluid, mutable signs that can change, that isn't just static. It's not stuck. We are right now here in the Northern Hemisphere between the seasons of summer and fall. So we're in a between sort of threshold. And all of the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, all have that sort of like, I don't know, maybe, but like maybe.
Yeah, that's good to know, because I feel like I'm in like that kind of a place right now. And so funny, like I'm so Virgo in so many ways, but then sometimes I'm like, what am I? Who am I?
Yeah. And I think that Virgos, for some reason, don't get a lot of room to do that, because we assume that Virgos are going to be, I mean, you're a Capricorn rising, I'm a Capricorn rising. If there's any sign that's like the fucking Trunchbull, it's Capricorn. That is like, I actually put that as in the Capricorn rising meme, as like the Trunchbull. I personally really relate to the Trunchbull. I think that is a character that is, very one-dimensional. But if you go to the backstory, Agatha, like what a journey this woman has gone on. Like what an unfortunate situation. That things have escalated so horribly.
Yeah.
But Virgo is less rigid in a lot of ways. It's much more malleable.
Yeah, like I was dating this guy and he was like, so you have to do this every morning and you do this every night? Like, cause I have like these isms, right? Like I wake up and I have the exact same thing for breakfast every day. And like when I go to bed, like I'm a freak. Like I wear earplugs. I like use this. I like have a routine because I have sleep problems, and it's when something disrupts my, like, I get like all anxious.
When something disrupts your meditation schedule?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my God.
So I can relate. No, but then sometimes it's like, oh, I'll get invited out for a weekend tomorrow, like I'll go do it. You know, it's like I'm like, I can be spontaneous and messy in certain ways, but yeah, there's definitely the Virgoisms.
So how, since you started But Like Maybe and your cartoons, and you started to sort of speak through that language, how has that progressed? Like, do you see that central character as yourself? Do you see it as sort of an extension of self? Do you see it as the collective self? Like, how, as your audience has continued to grow, have you continued to develop this voice?
It's so interesting because when I first started, it was definitely like me and exactly what I was going through, like at the time. And, you know, I always talk about like, in my book, I actually talk about like self-love and kind of like how weirdly this experience of putting myself down in like these funny way through these cartoons kind of like built my self-confidence by exposing like all my anxieties and, you know, what made me sad or what broke my heart. I like kind of made this thing that I was able, like, now I'm a full-time artist. Like, you know, I'm my own boss, and like now I love what, like, I'm proud of myself and confident. And I didn't really have that before, to be completely honest. I was insecure. I mean, I'm still, but like, you know, I'm getting better. I feel like as every day goes on because of this thing that created where I flaunt my insecurities. So it's kind of this fun, like funny dynamic, this, you know, dichotomy. But like I I now, it's almost like taken a life of its own where, you know, it may be what I'm going through. It may be what I went through 5 years ago. It may be what a friend is going through. I may be at dinner, like last night I was at dinner and someone like said a funny story and I was like, oh my gosh. And I wrote down a note about, like, you know, something that a bit that came to me because of that story. And there are things that I just like, or, you know, pop culture through the world that I'm like putting out there. Or, you know, in a time like where I think we need to something uplifting, I'm like, okay, let's do something super positive today. But it isn't necessarily what I'm going through at the time. And it's funny because like I have to even say that to, like, let's say I'm dating a new guy and they're very, you know, interested. I'm like, don't worry, like, you know, it's Friday, so I'm putting a meme out, not meme, I'm putting a cartoon out about going and getting drunk and seeing my crush, but like, I don't have a crush. You're my boyfriend. You know, like
Yeah.
it's like, you know, but it's like, but it's Friday, and I know that like when I was single and wanted to relate, you know, it's like it's not necessarily what's going on in that time, but I'm trying to think of like a collective like world now, you know, rather like I'm trying to think of her, the character. I think she's almost me frozen in a certain point in my life where I can
Mm.
look back on and be like, oh, you know, like silly me kind of like, but she's learning, you know, but she has to learn through mistakes. And I'm still learning, you know, I think everyone always is. So
And have you found that your audience has continued to be sort of a certain age range? Are they growing up with you, or is it continuing to resonate for people who are at that point of life where they're just like truly trying to figure everything out?
I mean, it is interesting. I think, you know, it's definitely, the age range has stayed the same. And I think in different parts of the country, like, you know, in Michigan where I'm from, people get married at 23, but and in New York City it's like you're married, sometimes you're not married till 43, you know, or not, you know, it's all different. um but sometimes I feel like it's either current or nostalgic. I get a lot of comments that are like tagging a friend being like, oh my god, remember those days, or, you know, when you were in that sorority, or remember. So it's almost like it's interesting, either I have followers that are going through it currently or kind of love it as like a reminder of who they were. And that's even sometimes for me, like I like putting it out there therapeutically as like, I don't necessarily do this anymore, but there was a point where, gosh, was I so silly and stupid and like sending these texts and waiting around for these
Oh, you mean
guys.
accidentally texting someone?
Yeah.
My
But like,
favorite.
yeah, but then but then realizing sometimes, I think there's this idea that, okay, we have to, at a certain point, we don't do this anymore. At a certain point, we know. At a certain point, we understand better. And I think what I'm learning is I don't think that's necessarily, I think we always are going to sometimes make a mistake. We're always going to, and, you know, I think what comes is just afterwards, realizing, learning, understanding better, you know, or giving yourself a little bit of a break. Whereas maybe before you wouldn't do that. But I don't believe in the fact that like there's a certain point where you know everything. And I think that's like where we have to give ourselves a little bit of a break.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. And definitely when you post something, it either harkens to some internal monologue, past, present, or maybe future, because I do feel like even if I'm not, you know, even if it's not like I am drunk texting guys being messy at the bar at 2 a.m. playing fucking like cell phone roulette to see who texts me back first. Like I still, that part of me still exists. It just doesn't manifest in that way. And it doesn't materialize in that, you know, it doesn't show up like that, but like that like tricky, mischievous, chaotic person is still very much who I am.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's, you know, and there's also like drama at any age. You know, I have a friend with kids, and it's like there's, you know, it's almost like that Big Little Lies, like the moms at the school with the kids, and like that sort
who
of
kills someone.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah. No, but like, you know, that internal gossip and the things, like there's always, it's like at every age, it's just different. It's just like, it's always, there's something, but it's just different.
Yes, totally. I love that so much. I'm curious about like your process. So you, for instance, the other night you heard something at dinner and you're like, oh, like that is inspiring. That gave me an idea. Do you find that do you have Virgo systems set up for yourself where you do a certain thing every day? Or do you create work when you are sort of like spark? Do you collect inspiration and then try to act on it? Or like, how do you find what's your process? And then two, how do you keep yourself inspired?
I have like a notepad. I was actually, I met a guy last night, and we were like, or not last night, the other night, we were comparing notepads like in a funny way. And like joking of like what, cause he was an artist too. And we were like, what's on yours? What weird stuff is on yours? And like, you would look at mine and it'd be like, date ran away, or like burger over sex. Like, you know, like funny, just like things like that. Cause maybe I'm out and I'm, you know, like tipsy and I write something down, or maybe I'll, you know, be with a friend, or I'll be on a work call or something like that, and I think of something funny. So it's like this random list. And usually what I do is I don't like do a bunch of cartoons. I don't have like a bank and that I just pull from. Every one that I post is made that day. So, and I don't do a bunch at a time. Like, and sometimes I've learned too, like I sometimes put this pressure on myself. I'm like, oh, you haven't posted in like 3 days. You got to do something today. It's like, no, I have to just wait until it's real and I'm inspired and it's funny. Because otherwise it's not gonna, you know, people won't respond to it because it's not true. Like, it's not real. Like if I'm trying to force something, you know. But yeah, I will sit down. Usually, if I look at my pad and I'm like, okay, this is the one I really want to do today, you know, then I'll sit down and draw it and put it out there in the universe.
Yeah, I'm the same way. We were talking a little bit before we started recording. Like there is no, I have tried to do that, like banking, like
batching. What do they call it? Yeah.
It doesn't work.
I can't do it.
It doesn't work for me.
Batch.
No, it does not work for me. It is so boring. It is so, it feels so, oh my God, where are you?
Whoa, oh, there you go. Sorry.
That's the catastrophe. It feels so like clinical, you know, it doesn't feel, it needs to have that special spark of like, I don't know, frenetic, like I gotta do this, like I have this I guess like lightning in a jar kind of feeling, where it's like if I feel it, if I saw something and I'm like, oh my God, I need to talk about this celebrity couple right now, or I need to like, I just saw this image and I need to figure out the words to make this a meme right now. If
Yes.
it's I can't
I know that
capture that, you know, like I can't be like, Mondays are my day to collect images and then find funny things to put on them. It really feels empty for me.
It does. I have this one, I always think to this one thing I saved of yours, and I think about it all the time. It's like kind of one of my mantras. And I correct me if I probably am butchering the wording, but you said something like, what's meant for you won't pass you by. And I was just like, I think about that all the time. Like you can't mess up what's meant for you, or something like that. It was something like that, what you said. And it's true. And I think about that all the time. Like I will date someone and I think about like, oh gosh, did I get too drunk at this party? Or did he not like that I said that at dinner? Did he not like, did I expose too much of like a past relationship, or did I say so? And it's like, you can't like mess something up. Like you can't, if they like you, they're going to like you, no matter if you say the thing, if you don't say the thing, but that was just like, I don't know why that just came back to me as like one of the favorite things, like gems I've gotten from you, because sometimes I need to calm myself down because I blame myself for ruining things.
I do too. I mean, and I had just come out of yoga and I was thinking a lot about having, about this opportunity that I had just met and spoken with the people about. And like, obviously I started overthinking the way I was talking and handling it, and like how much I shared, and was like too eager. Was I not eager fucking enough? Like I was just like really going on about all of the ways that I could have fucked it up. And then I had to like, I had one of those like obnoxious cliche, like yoga, 50 minutes in, and I'm like, I couldn't have messed it up. And if I messed it up in a 30-minute Zoom call, like it's too fucking fragile. It would
then
be
clearly it wasn't.
Yeah. Then I would be, then I wouldn't have any room to be myself, and I wouldn't have any room to be the person that I am, who is imperfect. Because if everything has to be so fucking precise in order for something to come into fruition, then like, that's not the right opportunity for me to begin with, because then I'm going to fuck it up,
Correct. Yeah. And I had a friend tell me the same thing. They were like, Ari, if he doesn't like you because of that, or if he thought that was weird, then like there's way more weird coming. And then he's not the one for you, because like, if that's going to throw him off, then like you're a hurricane of that. So don't and you need someone who can like be down for the weird. So,
yeah, totally.
It's not meant for you.
Yeah, but like I wouldn't have been able to create that statement. And it's not like a groundbreaking statement. Like I've certainly heard various iterations of it.
Yeah, there's versions.
Through time. But the version that sort of was, the words that came to me were inspired by what was really happening sort of in my consciousness, and how I really had to sort of like, the words that I needed to find in order to soothe my anxiety at that moment. I can't batch that shit. Like that's it's like unbatchable. It's unbatchable because it's honest. And I feel like that to me is the difference between, well, that's at least what I hope people see in my work, is how like much of a one-to-one it is to my psyche and to my experience and to my truth. That's definitely what I see in yours. And I honestly feel like it really shows. You can feel it when somebody is contriving something, and when they're like trying to commercialize it, or when it's just really an extension of who they are and it's coming from their soul.
Yeah, it was funny. I had a friend who said the other day, I was dating someone like a month or two ago, and my friend joked, she was like, well, if you know, if you didn't keep getting your heart broken, you're like, or if you didn't keep like dating the wrong, like, think of, it's great material. Like, and I was like, oh, am I just gonna keep, doing this for the rest of my life? Like, there was a moment where I was like, oh,
Well, no, you won't. You'll change and grow through
and grow.
that. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean,
She was like, yeah, at least it's material. I was like, okay.
Well, I mean, I do think about like, I mean, I think about that is the case for everyone. I think that people, the shitty things that happen to people are their material, no matter what. So like when I
Yes.
have clients who have gone through serious traumas, like real, like we're talking like really heavy fucking shit. I'm like, you probably cannot just integrate into society as a, work a 9 to 5 job, like bury this and not have this be a main sort of healing modality of your life. This can't be an afterthought, when you've gone and like, so this is on a spectrum of like, this is like some of the worst things that could happen in someone's life, sex, horrible assaults, losing a parent, losing a friend, just like really traumatic things. Like, no, often the worst things that happen become the things that we end up needing to connect with other people on and building community around, because it's the same way as like when you're in math class and you're like, I have no idea how to solve this problem. And then someone's like, I really don't know how to do it. And you're like, here, let me help. And you're like, oh shit, I figured it out. Like, I know how to do it. It's like, yeah, when you help other people who are going through similar things, you do end up helping yourself. It is very healing. So someone who's like on one far end of the spectrum of having had horrible things happen to them, or all of the messy, stupid, shitty things that happen in our 20s into our 30s, like all of like the mistakes that we make, instead of being like, oh no, these are getting in the way. It's like, well, maybe they actually, that is your unique sauce, that is like your special recipe.
It is. Yeah. The special sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. I definitely agree. I don't think I'd be anywhere without the trauma.
Totally.
I don't. I mean, I've built a career on it, I guess. I don't like, that sounds so strange to say, and it's not like, and, it's like little thing. It's not anything, that has been incredibly like destructive to my life, but, it's something that everyone goes through, which is love. And I do cartoons about other things, but I think if anyone was to tell you, like, it'd be cartoons about dating is really the most about what I do. But yeah, like, you need the things that feel good, then you need the new crush feeling, and you need to know what the other side feels like.
Yeah. And working through that, like, has there ever been something where you've been like, like, this is too vulnerable to share, or I went too far with this post?
I have had incidents where I don't anymore. Like, I take a step back now. When something happens in my life, like really, like, let's say dramatic, or, there's a breakup, or, let's say, I'm just saying, not that this happened, but like a guy cheated on me, or a guy, like, I find something out, like it's revealed. It's like, you have to take a step back, because I don't want to weaponize my account, and I don't want to use it to hurt someone. And generally the feelings I'm feeling, the instant ones at least, like, are very strong, and I need to like calm down. But what I will do is, if there's something like a gut check feeling that's, I think is like, let's say, I think would be universal, like, I'll write it down and maybe I'll save it for 6 months later. I will, if it's super personal and the person will know and my friends will know. And, New York's a small scene. Like, I save it, for maybe 6 months down the line, a year down the line, because it's like, I just don't, I've had situations where I was really, really angry with someone and hurt. And, I did a cheeky cartoon that like alluded to them, but not really. And, it didn't make them feel good. It didn't make me look good. And, I just was like, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore, because it's too personal, and it's not just me. And it's like, and then I'm also basically like taking something and having hundreds of thousands of people laugh along at them or with me, and it's not necessarily the right thing to do, even if they did screw me over or whatever, um, if it's something serious like that, that happens. So yeah, I think now it's definitely, I take a step, I take a beat. And I've had guys tell me straight up, they're like, so would you do a cartoon about me? Like, I have to be honest, like, I'm a private person and I don't know if I'd be down with that. And I'm like, I totally understand your cause for, pausation, like for pause, like, and it's now, I think 5 years ago would have been a different story, but now it's almost like it's its own machine. And I wouldn't do that anymore. So, but yes, I've learned, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely I guess by the time this comes out, this episode, I think my book will be out. So hopefully, I mean, I think that by this point, people will know that it is not like it's not like the horrific tell-all that I have been threatening it would be. But that has definitely been my joy for the past, like, I don't know, 2 years in the writing process, is teasing on the internet of like, hey, anyone who fucked me over, like, guess who's writing a part memoir? Me. And like,
Yeah.
I have gotten so many messages from the shittiest people being like, hey,
Oh yeah.
just wanted to make sure, like,
I got
you're
those
good.
too.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I hope you pre-ordered, bitch. And
Yeah.
at this point, everyone will know that I'm not going through and naming names. It's more like emotions and impressions and experiences. But yeah, I definitely have really enjoyed like making people get a little trembly over the past 2 years.
Oh, for sure. And it was a similar thing with my book. It was similar. It's more like feelings, and I told those scenarios. What was interesting is, like, I'll tell, like, in my book, like, I will put a post out there about a personal situation if it's like making fun of myself, I guess. Like, let's say I got on a date and God, I don't know, like, I'm just like pulling something out of nowhere, like my dress falls off or something, I trip and fall into like a plate of spaghetti. Like, I would do something about that. Yes, like all day. I will make fun of myself all day and they can know. But now I've learned, like, it's also like there's a point where I'm like, because like my entire book, basically, it's called But Like Maybe Don't. It's like what not to do in dating. It's stories of all the insane things I did, like calling them, telling them they're my boyfriend, like things that I did, like crazy things. Like, so I was okay, like, telling those stories. But like, do I want to tell the thing where I broke someone? Yeah, it's like, and also like sometimes I'm like, now I'm like, I don't want to give them the satisfaction. If that makes sense. I'm like, he wishes I would do a cartoon about him. No, I'm going to act like I'm having the best time of my life.
No, that's true. I mean, that's like an incredible. Do you think that now it's the flip where people are trying to get into your life with the hopes that they're going to get a cartoon?
I've definitely had, I don't think I'm anyone special, but I've definitely had guys, been like, oh, so like, was that about me? Like, and I'm like that I'm current, like that I've been dating, like, and I'm like, no, like, and you were like, oh, well, you did a cartoon about a guy that was 6'3", and I was like, first of all, honey, you're 6'1", but like, like, I'm like, but it's just like sometimes guys, like, they'll like get so. I think a lot of times we're like, oh, girls are so introspective, or girls think things are about them. It's like guys do that stuff too. But yeah, I've definitely had guys that they seem a little too eager. They seem like they want to be the source or the star.
Oh, that is so obnoxious. That drives me crazy. Another thing for guys to feel entitled to.
Yes.
is getting to be cartooned. No, no, no,
No,
not happening.
no.
I
Yeah, like I
wish.
did a post that was like basically, I bet you think this post is about you, like the song, and it was like, because it's like
I
I
saw
wonder
that one.
sometimes.
That
Yeah,
was amazing. That was
because
amazing.
it's true. Like sometimes, like even I, which frustrates me in the artistic process. Like the other day, I thought of this cartoon. I was like, oh my god, this is so funny, relatable. And I'm like, if I post this, he's gonna totally think this is about him. And I'm like, I just can't give him that satisfaction. Like, and also like, or I don't want to look like I care that much, because I like, it's not like anything, and like it's just like, oh, I just don't want to look like that girl that's using it for this thing. It's like it's been a blessing and a curse in a way, you're like, I wanted to use everything, and now I'm like, oh man, like I don't know if I want him to give him that.
Yeah, yeah, I do understand. I mean, that I think is part of the beauty of how intimate your work is, though, of like what people,
Mm-hmm.
250 plus thousand people are seeing and witnessing is also like you're there being like, shit, should I post it? Is this person gonna think it's about them? It is about them. I don't want them to know it's about them. Like that's
Right.
it's and that's what makes it so relatable and so raw, is that it's not just this like factory of like, here, like millennial pink, this is what girls
Yeah,
like. It's
yeah,
like
exactly. I've had friends actually reach out to me, even like I don't even know. Sometimes they're like, "Are you okay? It kind of seems like by your cartoons and the things you're posting that you're like going through a tough time." And I'm like, "What? Really?" Like, or like I've had guys write me and say like, "So who's the new dude?" Because I've posted like a lot of happy or like new crush or like lots of hearts, like and happy stuff. And I'm like, man, maybe like maybe I am not even knowingly, even actively trying not to post what state I'm in. Like I'm posting what state I'm in.
Yeah. And is it true, like when your friends reach out to you or you do have a new crush, like is it a one-to-one?
Generally, they're right. Generally it's like, even when I'm trying to hide it actively, it's like I can't. It's like bizarre. I am very like, when I'm happy, when I have a new crush, when I am into someone, I am like literally walking on air. And I always tell people like it's the best feeling on earth. Like I even like I did this for a brand one. It's like a wine bottle of like new crush feeling. Like, because I think it's like, it's better to have had it than never had it all. It's like it's the best thing in the entire world. Like even if you only have it for a week and then the guy like ghosts you or whatever, I'm like, it was still the best week ever. Like if you
That's
think
so
back to those.
interesting. I think that I do not miss having crushes on people at
Oh
all.
really? Oh, I
Oh
love
my
it.
God. It felt like torture to me having a
It's
crush on
terrifying,
someone.
but it's terrifying, but it's the best kind of terrifying, I think. When you're both in that honeymoon crush phase, I think. If it's not reciprocated, obviously, like, that fucking sucks. And I've had that a million times too. But like when you're both in that new tingly, like obsessed with each other, like talk about like running away to Paris together, kind of like stupid things that you say when you first meet someone and you're obsessed with them, like it's, to me, it's like nothing else.
I mean, I think I love that are you
Sorry, I keep
there?
disappearing. Yes, I keep disappearing.
I love that you've literally like bottled that sensation, because it does feel like something that needs to be contained, because like once it bursts, like it does go flat. I mean, I actually think that like a bottle of champagne as a new crush feeling is like such a loaded and powerful metaphor.
That's a great point. I never thought about it that way.
Because yeah, it's like it's only as soon as it's out, it's like
It's
it
out.
explodes, and then it's like you're sticky, and then it's like flat, and then you're like, oh my God, it's like not even prosecco, it's like
Yeah,
real,
do we
it's
even
like,
drink it
yeah,
now?
it's like disgusting, I'm gonna get a
Right.
headache.
It's flat.
But like it looks
Yep.
really cute, and like the idea of it obviously is fabulous. Okay, so
Wow.
now I have two questions to ask you, and then I would love to pull a tarot card for you if you are
Oh
interested.
gosh. Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, so my first question is, what do you believe in?
I believe in picking yourself up and trying again.
Spoken like a true Virgo. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Love it.
That's it. That's it.
That's
in,
it.
in all
No
forms,
need for
in
elaboration.
all forms of life. In all forms of life, romance, work, everything.
I love
Keep
it.
trying. Yeah.
Question number 2. How does magic show up in your life?
I think magic shows up through the people I love. I think I see little sparks of magic, like we were talking about, like in a new crush, when I see, a parent again for the first time in a year, when I see, in like little, just in little bursts of love, I think.
I love it. So this is also, we didn't really talk about your Cancer moon very much, but Cancer moon loves to be in love.
Oh, that makes sense, because I love that.
Yeah, it can't.
I
The
do.
moon is our emotions. Cancer is obviously ruled by the moon, so it's very happy to be in that placement. And then the Cancer moon energy is just like a hopeless romantic in perpetuity.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I miss being in love. It's the best. What's life without it, to be honest? So
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I think that, my sort of hard, skeptical, like I hate everyone, I have been burned a million times over, is obviously a defense mechanism. I love
gotta
love.
try again.
Love.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very happily engaged. We just signed our wedding contract yesterday. Like a
Yay.
big fucking adult over here.
Woo.
I know, it's crazy, but I do feel like and this is, I think, also why I love your post so much, is because it kind of takes it full. It's like brings the story, it connects all the dots of the story, of like even being able to be at the point where I am now in like a happy, healthy, stable, non-fuckboy relationship. I would hope so. He's going to be my fucking husband. That would be a disaster. But like, it took me a long time to get here, and it took me a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
And I had to like go through all of it
Yeah.
in order to appreciate, like, oh my God, this love doesn't have to be erratic.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to
Yes.
be frenetic. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be destabilizing. It could just simply like be this platform that's helped support.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So I have my tarot cards here. The way that they work best is when there is a specific question that you have that you would like to ask. The general, like, what's the vibe, could sometimes get a little bit messy because we're like, wow, what's it even speaking to? So if there's a specific question that you want to ask, that is my preference.
Ooh. Let's see. Like, should it be general or specific?
Specific.
Very specific?
I mean, not so specific that you're like, don't release this podcast episode.
No, I
but
mean like something like, do I give it a timeline? Like, I was going to say, will I fall in love again? Like,
oh yeah, that's
year.
too general. That's too, well, no,
too general.
Yeah, but I mean, it could be like, what does falling in love again look like for me?
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. What will my next, I guess, like, do I know my next relationship already? Or like, what does that look like? I guess, do I know my person already? I guess I always think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, sure.
Do I know my next love?
So for the cards, since the cards aren't like yes or no, why don't we do like, what does your next love look like? Because then that could also give us information as to whether that person seems to be a character in your life currently or not.
Okay, cool.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So what does your next love look like? Pile 1, pile 2, or pile 3?
3.
Excellent choice. Okay. So what does your next love look like? Let us see. Aha. Okay. 4 of Cups. So as you can see, this little emo guy is sitting there pouting, being like, ho hum. And this cup is literally, there's a miracle happening. This cup is coming from mid-air being delivered, but this guy is like, I don't have what I want. I'm so focused on none of these cups working out that I don't see this cup currently, just being delivered as a miracle. So I think that it's very likely you do know this person. And I would say that it's
Wow.
very likely that you aren't seeing this person, or
That
if you
I'm
don't,
not or they aren't.
you aren't. If you don't, it could be that you haven't met this person yet, but it's someone who you would not pay attention to because you're more focused on the things that haven't come to fruition. So whether or not you do currently know this person, or this is someone who like you would not pay attention to if you met them, this is someone, the miracle is something that doesn't look like your past experiences.
Oh, cool.
Because if you're too focused on what didn't happen and like these things, you're going to miss this incredible opportunity.
Wow. So I have to be attentive.
Yeah. And also like, not putting your energy into what isn't, but keeping your energy open for what could be.
What could be, or like what didn't. Yes. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
if there's something that it's like, oh, like I really wanted a relationship to look like this, or I'm really disappointed it didn't work out with him, or like we're still texting, like all of that is going to keep you more focused on the things that aren't coming to fruition than the magic that might be developing without your awareness of it,
Wow. Cool.
Cool.
I could
I
talk
feel
about,
like
I could
that one.
dig into this all day.
I feel like that. Well, you can. Four of cups is the card,
Okay.
and yeah, you could definitely muse on that, because I think that it feels very inspired as a choice. I feel like this is definitely your card.
Wow. It does seem that way.
Yeah,
Sounds about right.
I'm excited. Ooh, I'm
Me
excited to see
too.
what happens. Who is
Yeah,
the
I'll
four
keep
of
you
cups
posted.
gonna be?
Yeah.
Well, this has been so lovely. Thank you so much for your time. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you and continue to get to know your work?
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun. They can find me at but like maybe on Instagram. And then they can buy my book, But Like Maybe Don't, on Amazon, at any major bookstore, Barnes and Noble, everything, and indie bookstores too. And my website's I'm like link in bio, but like maybe.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa.